Ryan Glover. I wanted to do this video particularly about Nigeria. And we hear so much in the media about the suffering that's going on in Gaza. And not to diminish it, but there's real tragedy and suffering happening in Nigeria where Christians are being killed, often sometimes in their sleep. And these are African people. And, me being African, I feel like, it's important to speak up about the mainstream media, lack of media coverage of Nigeria, and only focusing on Gaza. We don't see people protesting about these mass killings of Christians. I feel like if you're a believer, the body of believers need to stand up for these Christians that are being persecuted in Nigeria. And I see so much racism with the death recently of Hulk Hogan. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to show the world that Christians believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. And Jesus taught that we are all his children. And I think that one of the ways that we could do that is by bringing attention to where in Nigeria, Christians are being killed primarily due to targeted raids, attacks by Islamist extremist groups, notably Fulani militants, Boko Haram, and the Islamic State West Africa province. These groups conduct violent raids, mostly in the northern and middle belt regions, attacking Christian farming communities, killing men, kidnapping women, destroying homes, churches, and crops, and causing mass displacement. Could you imagine, simply because of your faith, being attacked in the middle of the night? And that's what's going on in Nigeria, where people have to fear because they believe in Jesus Christ that they could be kidnapped, they could be killed, and simply because they don't worship Allah or practice Islam. And there's recent incidents that have occurred on July 13th, 2025. Fulani extremists killed 2 evangelists in Plateau State and continued attacks in neighboring communities, destroying farms and causing ongoing fear amongst Christians there. On July 15th to the 27th, Christians were massacred overnight in Bindi Village, Plateau State, by Fulani herdsmen despite warnings to local military forces. These attacks are brutal and often happen during the night as people sleep. Between June 8th and June 14th, more than 200 people, mostly Christians, were killed in multiple attacks in the Middle Belt by Fulani militants. The violence included burning buildings and machete attacks. In April 2025, a similar attack on a Christian farming community in Plateau State killed at least 40 people, also attributed to Muslim herders utilizing security lapses for raids over land disputes. The violence is part of a broader pattern where Fulani militants, some inspired by radical Islamist ideologies, seek to displace Christian communities to take over their lands and impose Islam. The Nigerian government has been criticized for inadequate protection of Christians and failure to effectively counter these extremist attacks. Nigeria is considered the deadliest country worldwide for Christians in terms of persecution, with estimates of over 50,000 Christians killed over the past 14 years and millions displaced. This conflict is deeply rooted in religious, ethnic, and land tensions, compounded by weak governmental control in affected regions. The killings of Christians in Nigeria stem from coordinated attacks by Islamist extremist groups, particularly Fulani militants and Boko Haram affiliates, focused on terrorizing Christian communities, seizing land, and suppressing the Christian faith through violence and intimidation. I think it's disturbing the lack of media coverage on Christians that are being killed in Nigeria compared to the frequent news about Gaza, and is largely due to a combination of factors, including geopolitical focus, media priorities, and public interests. Severity and scale in Nigeria. Because Nigeria has experienced a brutal, ongoing campaign of violence against Christians, primarily by Islamist militants such as Boko Haram and Fulani herdsmen, reports indicate tens of thousands of Christians killed over the past 2 decades, with recent years seeing thousands of deaths annually. 2023 was particularly deadly, with over 8,000 Christians killed, and the crisis being described as a silent genocide due to the lack of widespread media attention. The violence involves mass killings, kidnappings, church attacks, and displacements of millions of Christians. Despite the severity, Nigerian Christian suffering often receives limited international media coverage. Many news outlets globally and even within Nigeria give more prominence to conflicts like Gaza. African conflicts like Nigeria may be underreported due to limited foreign press access, perceived regional instability, or lower public awareness in Western countries. Some Nigerian government and media stances may also influence how the violence is framed, sometimes discouraging the use of terms like Christian genocide, which affects international perception. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict draws extensive political and humanitarian engagement worldwide, including from major powers, which drives continuous media reporting. In Nigeria, international focus and intervention calls exist, but are comparatively muted, leaving the Nigerian Christian crisis less highlighted. Religious persecution there is also intertwined with ethnic, political, and economic factors, making the narrative more complex and less straightforward for media portrayal. Christian organizations, religious leaders, and human rights advocates have repeatedly highlighted the Nigerian crisis, describing it as one of the deadliest persecutions of Christians globally, with urgent pleas for more awareness and action. While both crises involve serious humanitarian issues, the wide international media prioritization of Gaza overshadows the ongoing and severe violence against Christians in Nigeria. So, I think it's important for, people to share this video and make people more aware of what's going on with our Christians, brothers and sisters in Nigeria. And I think it's very important to note that a large part of this, I believe, comes into play because of xenophobia. I believe that African lives worldwide matter less. And if they don't, you as an American citizen can help address the Nigerian Christian genocide by contacting your U.S. representative to support bills like H-Res 82, which designates Nigeria as a country of particular concern for religious freedoms, abuses, and calls for appointing a special envoy to the region. This helps pressure the U.S. government to take stronger diplomatic and economic actions against perpetrators. Support U.S. government and allied efforts by backing initiatives that train Nigerian law enforcement to investigate and prosecute genocidal acts and lobby Nigerian leadership to crack down on militias like the Fulani and Boko Haram. Programs could be funded and managed by American churches or NGOs to empower Nigerian Christians with early warning systems and human rights monitoring, independent of governmental collusion. Amplify the issue via social media by sharing videos like this. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and also support organizations like Genocide Watch, Open Doors, and Inner Society to document and expose atrocities. Increased international awareness can motivate global leaders to act, provide humanitarian aid, support Christian and human rights groups offering relief, refuge, and trauma care to victims in Nigeria, and advocate that the U.S., Britain, and other allies use tools like targeted sanctions, visa bans, and freezing assets of corrupt officials collaborating or neglecting to stop violence against Christians. Together, these measures combine grassroots, political, humanitarian, and diplomatic efforts U.S. citizens can pursue to help the ongoing genocide against Nigerian Christians and make it stop. Christians are called to fight injustice in a way that honors God, using their voices and influence to advocate for those who cannot defend themselves. And read Proverbs 31, 8-9, Isaiah 58, 6. And make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social media. I really appreciate you for checking out the video.